What if Jiraiya didn't just teach Naruto the Rasengan, but gave him a new path, one of sage arts, sealing mastery, and true shinobi wisdom? This is the story of Naruto's training trip rewritten. Chapter 1. I don't own Naruto. Hello Bachan. I bet you're pretty surprised to get a letter from me, nay. It's actually the first one I've sent, so I guess it's unfortunate given the circumstances, but unfortunate circumstances would be the name of my biography no one would write nor read. I hope Gamakichi returned your necklace. I wanted you to have it back so you understand that the necklace didn't curse me. I didn't fall to a jinx, this is simply where this has been headed. A part of me wishes I could chalk it up to fate, but given I've had a lot of time to think, it's pretty clear that this has been just a series of choices by myself and others, and no matter what, I want you to know I'm at peace. But enough of the build-up. I guess I should start with what led me to this. I was so excited to go on the training trip with Jiraiya. A Sannin wanted to personally train me, the student and teacher of a Hokage respectively. How could I not be psyched? I get to travel and become strong enough to save Sasuke and eventually become Hokage. I know I can come off poorly, but I really wanted this to work, so I made a promise to myself. I wouldn't complain if something was boring, I'd follow Jiraiya's instructions. Learn what he has to teach to the best of my abilities, and even do some independent study when I had downtime. I was going to be focused and committed, not as loud nor excitable. Kakashi never taught me anything when I outright asked, so I'd go at Jiraiya's pace. I was sad to leave home but knew it was going to be worth it. 6 months later and I've learned practically nothing. We do a light spar about twice a week. He doesn't instruct me on anything new regarding taijutsu, we just spar and he remains unimpressed. I even accompanied him on his peeking, which I hated because he claims it's good infiltration training. I really wish he didn't do that. I know he thinks it's harmless, but I guess he's never felt unsafe in places where you are supposed to be safe even when vulnerable. If he had, he'd likely know that his peeking isn't some hobby but predatory. He wanted to focus on my Biju chakra, and as much as I didn't want to, I tried. Up until he loosened the seal and got injured. Did you know channeling the Kyuubi's chakra hurts? It burns and the pressure feels like my muscles are getting squished. It probably doesn't help that I'm afraid of it, of losing control or being swallowed whole by the small fraction of the power I feel. But since then, he's done little to nothing. 2 months of being ignored, he won't even give me a jutsu scroll. I just get told to practice the Rasengan and chakra control, but I'm not giving new exercises. I got so bored one day I decided to try to separate pepper from salt. It was really hard, but I was starting to get the hang of it. Guess that was something of a wasted effort now. All that downtime has allowed me to think jokes about my being too stupid to do such a thing because everyone knows Naruto is an idiot. It's practically my last name, and I've come to realize that my life is something of a sad joke. They called me lazy at the academy. Uruka used to yell at me for sleeping, but never Shikamaru. They never considered a 7-year-old might be up late because he's scared and alone in his apartment, not falling asleep until he just can't stay awake but jumping at every unknown sound. Wondering if the door shakes due to the wind or someone trying to break in. They said I was undisciplined but never mentioned how I had to fight every day just to have my existence acknowledged because the villagers all decided I was to be invisible until I made them look at me. Then I was scorned. I yelled because the silence was deafening, but it didn't matter. Neither of my sensei seemed to care for me much. Kakashi barely trained me, and during our Genin exam he set out to humiliate me just days after a Chunin instructor tried to murder me. He left me during the Chunin exam finals, had no clue about my skillset, and yet he sent me after Sasuke to fight an unstable Jinchuriki. I still sometimes wonder if he sent me to my death. I thought Jiraiya would be different. I needed him to be. Yes, he has given me summoning and the Rasengan, but with both, his aid has been minimal. He never told me I was molding the chakra improperly while attempting the technique, therefore wasting most of it. Gamakichi did, and I haven't had a problem summoning since. But his goal was to exhaust me so I'd tap into the fox's chakra. Throwing me off a cliff was just an added bonus, I guess. And now on this training trip, I failed to improve with the Biju chakra, so he's written me off. I seem to be the only person that believes I can become a great ninja, or believed, I guess. But it doesn't matter anymore. It does hurt, though, thinking about returning to the village only marginally improved from when I left. I could just see my cohorts, questioning how idiot Naruto managed to not get better with private instruction from a Sanin, the one that taught the fourth. I would just be a liability for them while confirming every negative thing they thought about me. They'll all get promoted but I'll be stuck at Genin, even after beating a prodigy, defeating a Jinchuriki and protecting a cage. None of my classmates have a resume like mine but they'll advance and I'll be a joke. Naruto the failure fails again but this time, he's going to get his friends killed too. I can't do that, I can't get them killed. I also can't keep wasting my time, my life hoping someone will want to help me, not just admonish me, not just tell me I'm doing something wrong but help. My whole life I've felt like there was this canyon between how I am and how I should be but I never knew how to bridge it. I don't know what Kakashi wanted, I don't know what Jiraiya wants but if my impending death can't make them take me seriously then nothing will. It isn't all bad, maybe I'll finally meet some family. I've been thinking about them a lot lately. I wonder if they'd see me how everyone else tends to, if they'd be disappointed in me or think me weak for giving up. I hope not, I hope they'd understand. Or at least come to. I wouldn't want to be alone in the afterlife, I don't want to be alone anymore. So, that leads me to why I returned the necklace. It didn't curse me. The day the Yondaime sealed the fox in me and the day the third told everyone did that. If I'm dead anyway, the long-lasting mistake then I should at least decide when I go. I can't let the Akatsuki get me, I know that much so this is my best option. It's actually really nice out, so I could have picked a worse day. Please, Bachan, don't stop believing. I know Konohamaru wants the hat and he actually has people that want him to succeed. The necklace didn't do this, I was just always a sucker bet. Love. N. Uzumaki. As Tsunade finished reading the letter she looked at the two men occupying her office with a teary-eyed glare. No one is to know of this. Everything regarding Naruto's suicide will remain an S-class secret. If you reveal it I will have you execute it. If you give out signals and put someone on the trail, I'll have you and that person executed. You both disgust me, leave my presence and don't say a word, she said with no inflection. Kakashi heeded his Hokage's words and left via Shunshin, Jiraiya did not. Sue. He started before being interrupted. What part of leave and don't say a word did you not understand you miserable son of a bitch? Leave Jiraiya. Go chase your whores. Go peek on women, something even your isolated, orphan student knew was scummy. Whatever shred of respect I had for you is gone, exhausted because you couldn't be bothered to do the very thing you said you wanted to do. Her words would have hurt Jiraiya greatly and in the future still might but hearing the final words of his godson has left him numb, he can't feel the hurt presently. Tsunade, please just hear me out. No, I will not hear you out. I don't want to hear your excuses, your justifications. Do you understand the level of shame and self-loathing he must have been feeling? He was convinced he was going to get people killed because he was too weak to do otherwise. He didn't even call them his friends, just comrades and classmates. He had checked out and you didn't do a fucking thing. Get out. Fucking get out. Jiraiya knew he should do as asked, ordered, but he had an overwhelming need to be heard, to be understood and it needed to be from his oldest friend and teammate. Jiraiya was beside himself that he didn't see the signs because he was too wrapped up in himself. When Naruto went four tails and nearly killed him, Jiraiya was equal parts afraid and rueful. The majority of the training trip was going to be to control the Biju chakra and while he told Tsunade it was on the list he never stated it'd be a primary focus. But with Naruto seemingly hitting his limit at 3 tails, 4 causing him to go berserk, Jiraiya didn't know how to proceed with his training. He had been disappointed Naruto couldn't handle more as he had heard about Kumo's 2 Jinchuriki and their unprecedented control so he didn't understand why Naruto couldn't do it, what he was lacking but Jiraiya had no intention of getting killed to find out. So he started to put some distance between Naruto and himself, going to his preferred distractions. He thought the kid wanted the space too as he never spoke up nor complained about Jiraiya leaving him only once requesting a jutsu scroll. Jiraiya could have written something out and honestly didn't know why he reflexively said no, maybe it was a lack of trust. He no longer trusted his apprentice and maybe he resented Naruto. Minato, in his mind, died to give Naruto a tremendous gift but Naruto just wouldn't apply himself. He wanted something easier like jutsu instead of harnessing the great power within. But how to explain it to Tsunade? Make her understand that he didn't just abandon Naruto but he needed the boy to do better. Tsunade, please. I just wanted Naruto to harness the fox's power. He just wasn't trying hard enough. If Kumo figured it out, then Naruto should have. He should have fought through the pain and utilized Minato's gift. The look Tsunade shot him let him know he had made a mistake, for where once was a fast-burning anger turned to a cold fury. He wasn't going to enjoy what happened next and he knew it. Jiraiya, she said so calmly, so plainly, did you ever talk to the elder toads about how you were going to train Naruto? She asked. No, why? See, the few days I had to wait for you to get here Fukusaku-sama and I had a chance to speak. I asked him why he thought the fox's chakra caused Naruto pain. He said that the Biju aren't mindless beasts, nor are they chakra batteries. Because they are sentient chakra, they can choose if their chakra is harmful or peaceful. He hypothesized that simply forcing more chakra from the fox would have never worked because Naruto didn't have the Kyuubi's cooperation. It wasn't about control, they had to become symbiotic. That understanding shit you're always preaching. Yay, Naruto needed to do that, but did you guide him to that conclusion? No, I'm sure you just told him to keep pulling on a power source you didn't understand. And now you stand before me, blaming the boy you failed like some coward. He's not here because you weren't enough. He didn't get further with controlling his Biju because you had no idea how to train him to do so. But you made your shortcomings his fault and he picked up on it loud and clear. Her words added even more damage to Jiraiya's battered soul. He had just assumed the Biju chakra was just a mass of power the Jinchuriki could use if they had the will to do so. He never considered the possibility that the Biju's unwillingness affected the Jinchuriki. He had always assumed the seal subjugated the Biju so they had no choice but to give up their chakra. Tsunade was right. Now, I won't tell you again. Leave, Jiraiya. Just get out of my sight. Without a word, Jiraiya walked out of her office, in a haze. Back in Tsunade's office, Shizune finally spoke up now that Naruto's two sensei were dealt with. Tsunade-sama, considering everything, don't you think that was harsh? No, not at all. They needed to get a sample of how Naruto felt. They'll get no comforting words or reassurance from me. Their arrogance and indifference brought this on. But enough about them, clear my schedule for the day would you? Hi, Tsunade-sama. Shizune said before exiting her office. With a wave of her hand, her 4 Anbu guards appear before her, a series of hand seals activate the privacy barrier. As you heard, all information regarding Naruto Uzumaki's demise is secret. If someone, say an elderly cripple, should ever come to my office hinting at information he shouldn't have about this or any other situation, kill him immediately. Do you understand? Hi, the 4 said in unison. Jiraiya had arrived at one of his many residences within the village. He never liked to be easily accessible, even when in the village, and now he was really thankful he'd be hard to track down. As soon as he closed the door, he summoned Fukusaku. Jiraiya, the elder sage greeted. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me what happened? That Naruto had killed himself and that you blamed me. That it was the reason you took the contract scroll from me. I didn't tell you because Tsunade wanted to. She wanted you and that Kakashi boy to be informed of your student's last words. His pain, his shame, and his misery. When I read the letter, I agreed. I have seen you do a lot of foolish things, Jiraiya, but I have never truly been disappointed in you until I read Naruto's note. The words of a broken boy that just wanted his sensei, his godfather, to care. Had I known you wouldn't seriously train Naruto, I would have done it myself, but I thought your sense of honor and responsibility ran deeper than that. What do you want me to say? I fucked up. I know I fucked up. I can't fix it, I can't make it right. I didn't know that's how he felt. How could I do anything if I didn't know? You will cease your shameful display this instant. You didn't know. How could you have known? You weren't there. You didn't meet the boy until he was 12. You talk about how it's no fun to train geniuses, and yet how soon after you discovered Naruto-chan wasn't another Minato did you give up on him. I didn't give up on him. Now isn't the time for lies, not to each other and not to ourselves. You gave up. You've been playing the part of the foolish pervert that you can manage to do little else. But I will not admonish you further. Understand your role in the boy's fate and grow from it. If you're strong, you'll improve and become better. I believe you can do that, but don't you ever forget your growth was paid for by the blood of someone else. Wait, where is his body? Gamakichi felt something was wrong, so after he delivered the letter to Tsunade, he went back to Naruto, to find him bleeding out with a kunai through his heart. The poor boy reversed summoned Naruto to us, but it was already too late. As is our custom, we buried him immediately. Can I visit the site? Pay my final respects? No. We were quite clear about this, Jiraiya. For the foreseeable future you will not be welcomed in our home. Just be glad you didn't lose the contract entirely. Now, I'll be off. Fukasaku said before returning to Mt. Myoboku. Dear brat. Naruto, I had no idea you were feeling this way and seemingly had been for some time. I know it may not feel natural, but you shouldn't try to deal with things like that by yourself. However, I also understand you didn't feel like you had someone you could come to. That changes now. Whether it be me, Shizune, or the Toads, you don't have to carry the burdens of the world by yourself, so if you're ever feeling overwhelmed, talk to someone. Write me a letter, do anything but harm yourself. I'll let you in on a secret, hardly anyone knows how to get from who they are to who they want to be. The process was never meant to be taken alone. We're all just faking it until we reach a level of comfort. I still don't always feel like the Hokage, and I'm slightly older than you, so if you don't have it all figured out at 13, I believe you can be forgiven. Luckily you are in a position to truly grow, not just as a shinobi but into the kind of man you want to be. I'll be sending training materials to aid in both pursuits. Use this time to grow stronger and reflect on things. Despite his failings, the Toads helped Jiraiya become a powerful shinobi, and I don't doubt for a moment you'll surpass him given enough time. You may feel you're at your lowest and the climb up won't be easy, but I don't doubt for a moment you can get to where you want to be. I believe in you, Naruto, so don't lose faith in yourself. I'm sending back the necklace. I gave it to you and I intend on you keeping it, but I'll make you a deal. You can give it back to me the day you save me from all this paperwork. Love. Tsunade. Chapter 2. There are 3 elements to combat. Fukasaku starts. Yes, there are multiple ways to express this. Taijutsu, ninjutsu, genjutsu, fuinjutsu and the like, but each of those disciplines are comprised of 3 basic elements. Mastering yourself, mastering your environment, mastering your opponent. For any and everything you learn here you should always be considering how it relates to those 3 elements. Do you understand, Tadpole? Hi, Sensei, replies Naruto. Good. Today's exercise is going to be centered on mastering the self. It will not be easy, Tadpole. When one gains self-awareness they have a tendency to lie to themselves, to see things how they want to see them. Too much of this causes self-delusion, it dulls the mind and senses of a shinobi. You must try to see things as clearly as possible, which requires the strength to not lie to yourself. With that being said, tell me about your time with your team and be specific. Fukasaku waited patiently as Naruto described his time on Team 7, the missions, the trials, successes and failures. Once Naruto finished, Fukasaku spoke. When you made that promise to Sakura you were leaving for a time-sensitive mission, yes. Hi. And you were surrounded by others when she asked, yes. Hi. Then you were relieved from that promise. No apprentice of mine will be beholden to a coerced oath of loyalty. But I have to save Sasuke. He's my friend and I don't go back on my word, it's my nindo. Naruto exclaims, only to be hit with Fukasaku's staff in response. That was an example of you not hearing what I said, only what you thought I said. I made no mention of not saving Sasuke, only of the promise made. Seeing his student understands, Fukasaku continues, as for keeping your word, that is virtuous Naruto, but virtue in excess becomes vice. While your teammate did not intend to do so, she coerced you to promise her something you should not have. Your mission was to bring this Sasuke back dead or alive. I wouldn't kill Sasuke. Naruto exclaims, to be hit in the head once again. Once again, you're seeing things how you'd like to see them, not how they truly are. You are a shinobi, you follow the orders of your Hokage. If you disregard orders because you think you know better, why can't everyone? Also, by putting Sasuke above the village you have made yourself responsible for everyone he hurts because you could have stopped him but didn't. Do you want that? No, but he was being influenced by that curse seal. From my understanding, he isn't the only one that has been marked with that seal. And like him, she wants revenge too, and yet she remained loyal. What prevented Sasuke from doing the same? That genjutsu from Itachi didn't help matters. Why would that matter? I don't understand what you mean. Sasuke wasn't rushing off to face Itachi, he went somewhere for training. So, he has enough forethought to know he can't defeat Itachi and yet not enough to be held responsible for his actions. You realize that doesn't make sense, yes. Seeing Naruto nod, Fukasaku readies himself for the most difficult part of the exercise. Naruto, why do you consider Sasuke a friend? Because he knows the feeling of loneliness, because he acknowledged me. Did he? Of course he did. At the Chunin exams he said he wanted to fight me, he recognized me as his equal. Jiraiya told me the boy would be jealous when you outdid him. That your rooftop fight is an attempt to put you in your place. Tell me, do you think Sasuke wanted to be stronger than you or you weaker than him? I don't understand the difference. If Sasuke wants to be stronger than you then he wouldn't begrudge you your strengths, he would just train harder to surpass you. If Sasuke wants you to be weaker than him, then he'd do what he had done the last few months before his defection. If he were really your friend, why would he resent your progress? He felt he wasn't getting strong enough, fast enough. Yes, because you were becoming his equal, possibly better than him. He didn't attack that Nara boy when he made Chunin over him, did he? How do you know that? I've done my research, tadpole. It does me no good to come into this blind. If you had more information than I did, you could use that to continue lying to yourself. Let that be a lesson. It is often the person with the most information that can craft the stronger argument, even if it is wrong. Now, answer my question, did he attack the Nara boy? No. Kakashi taught him his Chidori, yes. Yes, Naruto replied while subconsciously rubbing his chest. So a fresh genin with an A-rank jutsu wasn't growing fast enough. Surely you see the absurdity in that sentiment, yes. I do. Who is stopping Sasuke from eventually getting his revenge? Kakashi didn't want him to fixate on it but I don't think anyone told him he could never have it. But you told me you believed Orochimaru was just using Sasuke to steal his body. So, the only person that would actively stop him from seeking his revenge is the person he ran off to. Yes. So what conclusion can you draw from this? Just from the facts as laid out. Naruto took several moments to think about all Fukasaku-sensei had said. He was at war with himself, an old voice begging to frame the information in the ways he had always thought about things. But he couldn't just give in to that old voice. He had promised himself he would improve during his training trip and while the teachers may have changed, his commitment hasn't. So, Naruto tried to reason things out, going over each bit slowly until he came to a conclusion. Sasuke didn't have to leave. His revenge had always been important to him but he could have grown stronger in the village. But seeing me get better, he resented it. I wasn't supposed to be stronger than him. Maybe good enough to challenge him but never better than he was. He left because of me. No, he left because of him. His need for revenge, his run-in with Itachi, even that seal would be what we call necessary but not sufficient. Yes, they are important factors but he needed something to push him over the edge. His jealousy of your growth. Fukasaku said after watching his student deflate. Now, how do you feel? I don't know. It's hard to call someone a friend after they nearly killed you partially out of envy but it's hard to think our time on Team 7 didn't mean anything. He didn't respect me when I had no skills but he resents me when I develop them. And he joined the man that killed Gigi. I wanted to save him from his darkness because I know how tempting it can be. But there is your mistake. No one can save you from your own darkness. People can only reach out to you but you must have the strength and desire to pull yourself away from it. How far are you willing to go to reach out again? How close to killing you or maiming you will you allow him to go? I don't know. Nor do you have to, not right now but think about it. You will need to come to a decision eventually, ideally before you two meet again. I'm not training a fool looking to get himself killed. Your life, your goals, your desires matter so keep in mind what you stand to lose if you go too far trying to save Sasuke. But how can I be an Hokage if I can't save one friend? Easily as Hokage and Kami are not synonymous. Each Hokage has failed, each has sent ninja to die. Failing to save someone from him or herself doesn't disqualify you from being a leader. Understanding you can't save everyone, especially from themselves, is important for any leader. I've had to come to terms with it, so has Gamabunta. You may save a lot of people in your life Naruto but expecting to never fail to do so will break you. Quote. I understand. Good, Ma has lunch for us and then you can explore a little bit. Hi. You may want to act normal if you don't want Tsunade to execute you, Kakashi, said Jiraiya. The Sannin had found the copy nin standing at the memorial stone, which in itself was not novel, but his body language was of a person expressing a great amount of grief. This can't work if you're that obvious, Kakashi. I'm sorry, Jiraiya-sama, guess I couldn't appear to be as unaffected as you. You don't want to play that card with me. You couldn't even keep your team together for a year before it imploded. And what did you do? Stand by and look on indifferently. Teaching Naruto the bare minimum until you dumped him. Is it worse to teach someone improperly or not teach them at all? You were outright manipulating him and didn't do much to aid him in winning his bout. Or was the Biju chakra supposed to be his answer for everything? Yes it was. The amount of destruction the Kyuubi brought onto the village, I figured given direction and controlled, Naruto would be near unstoppable, answered Jiraiya. I'm sure you didn't take Naruto's feelings into account while crafting your brilliant plan. Oh, you care now. Why does someone have to die for you to give a shit about them? Guess Naruto really was like Obito. The shot made Kakashi livid, all thoughts of his depression gone in a single instant. No words would convey how much he hated Jiraiya in this moment. Without a moment's hesitation, Kakashi attacked Jiraiya. Surprise was his ally as he managed to hit the Sannin with a right cross, but the well-honed instincts kicked in too fast and the rest of Kakashi's assault was blocked or avoided by Jiraiya before he kicked the much younger man away from him. You've let your reputation go to your head, boy. Jiraiya sneered. Once Kakashi had picked himself up, he decided that in this instance, he hated everything about Jiraiya and found nothing about the man redeemable. Jiraiya killed their student. Jiraiya killed Minato's son, but he has the nerve to place blame elsewhere. Because he saw Naruto as nothing but a living weapon. Kakashi may have made mistakes. No, he thinks internally, he did make mistakes. He should have done better by his team, but he trusted Jiraiya to bring Naruto along. Maybe when he returned he could help him with his affinity and other advanced studies. Now, he'd never get the chance, and it's because of this get-a-wearing fuck. Kakashi wanted Jiraiya dead and gone, and he knew just the perfect jutsu to accomplish this goal. He uncovered his Sharingan, Obito's gift. Kakashi had a Sannin to kill. Jiraiya knew Kakashi was getting serious when he revealed his Sharingan. It didn't really worry the Sannin, he considered it more a show of bravado than anything. If he wanted to memorize this ass-kicking in perfect detail and high definition, then who was Jiraiya to begrudge the prick? Besides, he hadn't put a Junin in their place in quite some time, and he had a lot of aggression to work off, so this would be good. He was tired of people placing all of the blame of Naruto's actions on him. There were years of Naruto's life Jiraiya wasn't present, and he was assured by his sensei he was well cared for and growing fine. He never considered checking to see if it were true. He trusted his sensei, and when he was told Kakashi would be Naruto's sensei, he figured the kid would be a solid Chunin candidate by the time of his return. That was not the case. But now they'll ignore the years Naruto was mistreated and focus on the 6 months he had alone with Jiraiya. They'll blame him solely for Naruto's depressive spiral, and the very thought enraged him. Jiraiya was broken out of his thoughts by the sound of chirping birds. Oh, Jiraiya thought with glee. He'd have to show the boy why his famed jutsu was nothing. As soon as the lighting blade had formed, Kakashi took out as fast as he could, saturating his muscles with chakra. Whatever damage done could be healed later. He need to drive his hand through the chest of Jiraiya, nothing else mattered. Jiraiya took off to match Kakashi's approach, unconcerned by the boy's impending attack. Reikiri, Rasengan, the duo called out as their jutsu clashed, causing an explosive backlash that blew both away. It hadn't taken long for both men to shake off the confusion caused by the blast, but before they could start round 2, they were surrounded by Anbu and watching the approach of one Tsunade Senju. Instantly, the anger both men felt vanished as they could only watch as their Hokage walked toward them, looking no less disgusted with the sight of them as she had been in her office. Jiraiya watched as Tsunade marched over to Kakashi. Without saying a word, the slug princess placed Kakashi's chin between her index finger and thumb and gave his hat a firm shake, instantly knocking the copy ninja out and likely giving him a concussion. As soon as the lights went out of Kakashi's eyes, Tsunade turned and made her way to Jiraiya, him now getting on his feet hoping to plead his case. Before a coherent word could be uttered, the Hokage hit Jiraiya with a bone-rattling punch, on the left side of his body, right below his ribcage, also sending him into unconsciousness. In their shared hospital room, it was Kakashi that awoke first, briefly catching the gaze of his irate Hokage. He didn't dare speak, for fear any word utter would be akin to the rabbit alerting the fox to its presence, a foolish way to court death. While he knew better than to speak, the tension in the room gave him the intense desire to change the mood, but he called upon all his discipline as a veteran shinobi to not make that mistake. Jiraiya stirred and fully awoke, 10 minutes after Kakashi did, and he too realized the folly in making a noise in the presence of Tsunade. Jiraiya, you will be tasked to team of Anbu. You will find out everything you can about the Akatsuki and if possible, eliminate their members. Make sure all your skills are sharp and my Anbu don't get rusty. Kakashi, tomorrow at 9 a.m. there will be a Junin meeting. Every Junin, special or otherwise, will be put on a training regimen to increase their skills. When Jiraiya gets enough actionable intelligence, we're going to war. Every Junin sensei will be encouraged to get their students up to Chunin. As soon as they do, they'll be leaving them alone. We don't have time to coddle anyone. Since your team is dissolved, that won't be an issue for you. As soon as she finished, Tsunade left the two men alone, the tension exiting with her. This is bad. A Tsunade to angry to threaten me is a level of anger I've never seen, and she's almost killed me before. Jiraiya said before performing a few hand seals, creating a privacy barrier. Look, brat, whatever we need to say to each other we need to do it now, because if we fuck up one more time Tsunade will kill us and it won't be pretty. Taking a few moments to collect himself, you gave up on him, didn't you? Like he said in his letter. Yes. Why? Because I felt he was squandering Minato's gift and I resented him for it. He was Minato's gift, the Kyuubi was a burden. Such a gift you didn't bother. Almost got him killed by your pet Uchiha. Fuck you, Jiraiya. I taught Sasuke a technique to fight an unstable Jinchuriki. I made him swear to not use it on a comrade. I won't pretend I was the best sensei. I know there is more I could have done, and it's quite apparent Naruto needed someone to be straight with him. I wanted him to learn to grow on his own, to not just depend on me. Bullshit. Minato didn't train you that way, I know that for a fact. He was a genin, dipshit, not an Anbu trainee. And how was he supposed to know what you wanted? Because you constantly ignored him. The entire village did that. It only would have made him dig his heels in deeper to get your acknowledgement. But you're such a smug, insensitive prick, you didn't care how you were playing on the boy's psychological issues. You wanted him to see underneath but couldn't be bothered to teach him how. And if you knew my faults, why were you the same way? Because it was easier. All the secrets and regrets surrounding the kid. Him depending on me not to fail him when I've been failing him his entire life. If he could control the fox, then no matter how I taught him, he would survive. He wouldn't be killed before he was 30. I wouldn't outlive him. So, yay, when I saw he couldn't control the fox it angered me. He wanted to be a shinobi. I've taught a shinobi legend and he still wound up dead. Naruto needed to be more, even if he didn't want to be or didn't know he needed to be. I would have improved on his skills in time, but the plan was always about controlling the fox. Oh, go fuck yourself. Your insistence he control the fox wasn't rooted in anything other than selfishness. Your search for the child of prophecy. A knucklehead with a biju behind him couldn't possibly fail, but if you trained him as an actual ninja he might question your beliefs and you couldn't have that. Spat Kakashi. The two elite ninja would continue on like this for another hour, neither finding the cure for their guilt nor an outlet for their anger at having failed Naruto. While both can see how their faults and more clearly the faults of the other man, since no amends could be made, or so they assumed, the only things left were bitterness and regret. Dear Bachan, I'm sorry. I know I was being selfish and I didn't mean to hurt anyone with my actions, I just didn't see another way, but I promise I'll never do that to you or Shizune again. My short time with the Toads has been nice and they have all been supportive. I won't say I'm doing better, as there are still days I feel shaky, I guess is the best way to put it, but I don't feel hopeless anymore. It is weird to look back on that mindset. It hasn't been long, but I was at peace with my decision. How can you be hopeless and at peace? I don't know, I've never been good at unraveling contradictions. Gamahiro was talking to me, telling me how the sailors of old used the stars to navigate the seas. I guess I felt like I was a sailor under a starless sky, adrift with no way to make it home. I asked myself why my friends weren't my guides, why those bonds I've desired for so long felt like the very clouds blocking the light I needed. I finally concluded it was because I've never really had someone to disappoint before and the thought that I would hurt. I don't want to be looked upon as a failure anymore, and that fear twisted how I thought about you all. Instead of a source of comfort and strength, the looks of disappointment I imagined became my greatest pain. I guess fear of disappointing those you care about is something you learn to deal with when you're young, so it was pretty embarrassing that I couldn't manage it but live and learn. I don't know how I be when my time here is over, but I do hope it is someone you and everyone can be proud of and someone I can be proud of too. I guess we'll just have to see when the time comes. Love. Naruto. Chapter 3. Hi Nichan. I'm sorry I hadn't written you yet, but a part of me feared if Granny didn't get the first few she'd punch me into my next lifetime, and I really don't want that. How are things? Granny said you're helping train Sakura-chan. I hope that's going well. The toads are cool, though watching Gamakichi trying to land a date with the girl he likes is quite painful. Makes me wonder if that's what I looked like. If so, I think I'm going to swear off relationships for a while out of retroactive embarrassment. I've learned something interesting. My shadow clones return their memories to me, ain't that neat? I wouldn't have discovered it if Gamatatsu wasn't being a pain. Who greets someone by throwing a rock? How could I be expected to catch it when you're yelling like a maniac? Although, I think I just discovered why Guy-sensei yells dynamic entry when he does his flying kick. He actually nailed Jiraiya with that. Anyway, because of the clone discovery, though I'm still wondering why neither Kakashi nor Jiraiya pointed this out to me, I've started on elemental manipulation. Gamabunta insisted I start on Suiten. He doesn't even know if it's my affinity, after he explained affinities to me. I questioned him on it, but he just gave me a look that implied he'd squish me if I didn't hop to get it. And even I'm not dumb enough to argue with a mountain-sized toad, again. Okay, but that first time I had just gone through a near-death experience and wasn't being given due respect. He would claim I was being a brat. I think he's simply biased, but what do I know? Oh, do you or Bachan think you could send me things to read? The toads have some stuff, but Shima Basama makes me read toad poetry and I don't understand it at all. So, please, Nichan. You're my only hope. All in all, things are going great, even if the food leaves something to be desired and Gamahiro is WAAAAAY2 into his swords. I miss you guys, so give Bachan a hug from me, but don't tell her it's from me. I don't want her getting a swelled head or whatever. Hokage should be humble and diligent, and this is me doing my part. Love. Future master of all water everywhere. Ugh. He groaned as he hit the ground. Was he really this out of shape? Honestly. This is most unyouthful, my rival. You must give your full attention to receive full benefits, Yash. Guy exclaimed to Kakashi. You're right, Guy. Sorry, lost my head there for a bit. So I see, is there something bothering you? It isn't like you to space out. Oh, just my student, and the last link to my sensei is dead. I failed him to the point he actively wondered if I had at one time sent him toward his death. I can't tell you he's gone or Tsunade will kill us both, and I still want to ram a Reikiri through that Gama bastard. Just thinking about how much work we have ahead of us to combat the Akatsuki. Ah, yes, a most unyouthful organization. Especially to be targeting those like Naruto, but I'm sure with Jiraiya's guidance he will be more than ready to meet the challenges ahead of him. Guy stated. Kakashi had to fight the urge to snort and roll his eyes at the benefits of Jiraiya's guidance, his anger at the white-haired man outweighing his guilt for just a moment. I'm sure Naruto is in good hands. But let's back to it. Kakashi said as he picked himself up off the ground and the two Junin re-engaged in their spar. It had been a month since Tsunade announced to her Junin their need to start training, as she wanted them prepared to meet the Akatsuki head-on instead of being reactive. For the Junin sensei, they were required to increase their students' training, which did not go unnoticed by said students. When asked why, each of the remaining rookie 12 teams were told it was simply mandated by Tsunade-sama. Privately, Tsunade had informed them that she expected each member of those teams to be made a Chunin by their third exam, if they didn't qualify for a field promotion. So, here was Kakashi training hard with his rival even when he truly wants to just stop, give up and fade away. Kakashi knows he handles things like loss poorly and has trouble moving on. The fixation with the past is a hallmark of his most painful failures, so a part of him welcomes being tasked with throwing himself back into work, into training. One doesn't have time to wallow when they are dancing on a knife's edge during multiple A and S rank missions. What can I do for the honorable elders today? Tsunade, we heard Jiraiya was in the village without Naruto and wanted to know where he is and why he wasn't with Jiraiya for his protection, asked Homura. Jiraiya assured me that he had Naruto someplace safe but he needed to return to aid in our shift in priorities. So, is he not primarily focused on training Naruto anymore? You know Jiraiya is easily distracted, said Kaharu. Actually, the team of Anbu I sent with Jiraiya should aid in Naruto's training. It was unwise to have so much of our intelligence reliant on one person. Jiraiya needed to start training people to take over his network or at the very least have people he can delegate parts to. Now, he can focus where we need him to and Naruto will be receiving the training he needs for his upcoming challenges. The three elders nodded and Homura spoke. What about the fight between Jiraiya and Kakashi? We can't have our top shinobi trying to kill each others. Given Naruto's progress with Jiraiya, he was angry at Kakashi's lack of attentiveness concerning his development. The further he had been along when Jiraiya got him, the further he'd be along with his current training. I spoke with both and they understand this can't happen again. We need unity to overcome our future challenges. Seeing that the trio had no further questions, Tsunade bid them good day. Homura and Kaharu exited while Danzo stayed behind. You weren't exactly specific on where Naruto was, Tsunade-sama. I was not and the others understood that to mean I wasn't going to reveal his location. Won't or can't. He's too important to this village's future to be cavalier about his safety and training. You should have allowed me to train him. Tsunade bit back her reflexive response of, fuck no, not because she would actually consider allowing the man to train Naruto, but given the results of Jiraiya's tutelage it's hard to be too self-righteous about his methods as they don't tend to result in suicide attempts. She decided to be more diplomatic about it and test how committed to Naruto's progression the Warhawk really is. I have no doubts Naruto could have learned a great deal from you, Danzo. It's the extreme emotional conditioning that would have been an issue. Not concerns I'd make him more loyal to me than you. No, the first signs you had, you would have been executed. The first seal on him that didn't belong, you would have been executed. Sensei was adamant in his notes that you never put him through your full program and I have to agree. However, like I said, there are things Naruto could learn from you. Would you be willing to write up some training scrolls? I could get them to Jiraiya in no time. Danzo wanted to smile at Tsunade's words, not because he didn't believe her but because he did. He respected Hiruzen, even if certain actions would point to the contrary, but the man had gotten soft in his old age. It appears Tsunade is not similarly burdened. It shows strength that a cage is open to removing opposition, consequences be damned. He might actually start to respect the Senju princess. Is that an order, Tsunade-sama? No, I didn't think it needed to be. We agree that Naruto becoming stronger, more well-rounded is better for him and the village. You put the needs of the village above all else. I figured you'd jump at the chance to have some influence over his development. Indeed. It'd be good to pass my vacuum manipulation onto someone. Among other things. Yes, I will get right on that. You speak as if you know his affinity. Hiruzen had the boy tested when he was younger. It's buried but it is in his files, if Kakashi or Jiraiya had ever bothered to read it. I think Hiruzen was toying with the idea of training him on the side but changed his mind for some reason. Well, if that is all. Of course, just get me those materials as soon as you can. As she watched Danzo leave her office, Tsunade made a note to go through Naruto's file fully to see what other information may have been there that has been overlooked. What are we doing today, pervy sage? You hear me, pervy sage. What did you say? Jiraiya asked, startled. I asked if you were okay, Jiraiya-sama. You spaced out for a moment while relaying your orders. Oh, great. Jiraiya thought as he had been experiencing moments where he would hear Naruto's voice when others were talking to him. Likely caused by grief he has been ordered not to show. His usual method of dealing with loss, work, women, and drink, had not been as effective as it had been in the past. Add the silent judgment of his Anbu squad and Jiraiya was finding himself in a bad spot. He had never been one of those people that could make every fiber of his being live for the mission, it just wasn't his style. He needed his distractions, the little side adventures of life to get by. So, getting lost in duty wasn't going to cut it for him, but his normal vices were losing their luster. Here he was, gearing up for one more war, for one more occurrence of senseless violence. He could tell himself he'd do it for the village that raised and nurtured him, but he had so little attachment to the village. Almost everyone who is important to Jiraiya is gone, one of them is so disgusted with him that he might as well be dead to her. It was hard to remember the love for the village when he resented it so, if he were able he'd laugh at the change of positions between Tsunade and him. But the resentment runs so deep he can't even take a small amount of amusement in the situation. He left his godson in the care of the village, believing they would help him grow, and it appears at every turn they did the exact opposite. No, his entire time away wasn't filled with danger and intrigue, but his time was better spent in the field. His sense of loss had nothing to do with not seeing Naruto for over a decade. He had his spy network, and Sensei ordered him, and, the village shouldn't have disregarded Minato's wish. He sacrifices himself, and those two-faced sons of bitches ignore his final words almost immediately. Couldn't they see that the boy had great potential and was going to do great things if they had just established a solid foundation, if Kakashi had built upon that, even a little Jiraiya could have taken him far. But he wasn't starting with much, decent taijutsu, high reserves and the will to never give up. There needed to be more. He only had 6 months with him on the road. 6 months is not a lot of time, it's barely any. He couldn't spend all his time training him, he had to manage his network, he had to have his downtime. Besides, what were people expecting? To fix all that was wrong with Naruto, be it his basics to his psychological needs, and magically turn him into an S-rank shinobi in 3 years' time. It wasn't possible, not with all the other things he needed to do. What are you going to teach me today, pervy sage? Stop asking me that. Jiraiya-sama. Oh, great. Jiraiya thinks as now the full squad is here and he looks like a lunatic. He can't deal with this today, he needs some downtime, the spy network can wait for a day. You guys just take a day, I'll speak with you all tomorrow. Dismissed. Jiraiya said as he walked off toward a destination known only to him, to the confusion of his assigned Anbu. How has the boy's training progressed? Gamamaru inquired. Fine, replied Fukusaku. Why so terse? It is likely that this boy is the child, the one Jiraiya has been looking for, the one foretold. That's exactly why. I let you fill Jiraiya's head with your prophecy, never once stopping to think the effects telling him would have. He dedicated much of his identity to finding the one you told him about, and with each failure he broke. So defeated, he couldn't even put forth a real effort with Naruto. No, you've tainted one apprentice of mine with your foolishness, I will not have you do it to another. Do you forget to whom you speak, Fukusaku? I am not some relic that will be admonished freely by you. That is exactly what you are. You think because you've taken a small break to clear out the opium smoke that you can demand respect and obedience from me. A relic is exactly what you are. Tell me, who is the last tadpole you've actually taken and molded? Who comes to you for your wisdom, for your guidance? No, they come to Shima and I. We've kept the toads strong, we've kept them disciplined, and have had a line of powerful summoners. Naruto is in a fragile place, he's putting himself back together. It's a slow process, he can't be your savior right now. It asks too much from a boy that's been given so little. This is no time for us to rehash past arguments, Naruto is too important. And if not for Gamakichi, he'd be the most important corpse in history. He cannot handle this right now. He needs to start discovering who he is, not what's expected of him, not a personality built around the rejection of others, but who he truly wants to be. If by the end of this process he is the young man I think he can become, he may very well save the shinobi system. If not, then we'll go from there, but I won't let you plant that seed. Seeing that Fukusaku won't budge, Gamamaru can only shake his head. Is this what we've devolved to? You used to trust me, trust in my counsel. Yes, until you put the weight of the world on some poor boy and aided in him becoming an old fool. If Jiraiya was meant to teach the child of prophecy he would have done so, there was no reason to interfere. I said as much, but because I trusted you, even more than I trusted myself, I relented. It did not turn out for the best. There are forces aligning themselves against Naruto and those like him, he needs to be prepared. Everything else is secondary to that. As you once trusted me, I will afford you the same. Thank you. But I will meet the boy. This is non-negotiable. That is fine, Shima spoke from the doorway before Fukasaku could respond to the declaration. Fukasaku, having learned over a lifetime to have faith in his wife, did not contradict her as he left, only replying. It is fine, but go against our agreement and you'll have forced my hand. I don't foresee that being an issue. Fukasaku and Shima heard Gamamaru say. Everybody's a comedian, Shima whispered as the two left the temple. 10 minutes into their commute, both elders had remained quiet, but Shima could no longer tolerate the tension. You're angry, husband. It'd be best to resolve this before our return and you upset the tadpoles. Why did you agree to have him meet Naruto? Because as much as he has fallen out of your favor, he still is who he is. You want to take over. Kill him. If not, then we'll have to make concessions. I doubt he'll cross you, as while he may not like this decades-long Cold War, it is more functional than outright hostilities. More functional because he leaves everything in our hands, his are occupied with his precious pipe. Maybe so, but we have benefited from the arrangement, and no matter how fond of Jiraiya, Minato or Naruto the Toads are or were, almost none of them would be okay with you moving against one of our own on their behalf, especially not him. Gamabunta would be livid. Am I so past my prime, wife, that I should be concerned with Bunta's temper tantrum? Fukasaku asked, teasingly. Of course not, you're still as spry as the day I meet you, but cohesion is better than conflict and discord. You're right. Of course I am. Humble too. Fukasaku muttered. Hello Naruto-kun. I'm happy to hear from you, and I wasn't offended that wrote your, Ba-chan, first. Tsunade and you just have the oddest relationship. I'm glad you seem to be feeling better. You had us worried, so don't do that again, or the next time you're in the hospital I'll extend it for a month. I'm joking, mostly. I gave Tsunade your hug, but I had to tell her it was from you as she's not the hugging type. She mumbled something about presumptive brats, but she was touched, I could tell. Sakura is doing well, she'll make a fine combat medic as long as she stays focused and works hard. I'm sending you a broad range of things. I don't know what you like, so it's pretty scattershot. However, if something grabs your interest, let me know and I can start curating some selections for you. That's quite the discovery about your shadow clones. I'm sure it'll help you advance faster than you could imagine, just don't overdo it. The brain is delicate, so build up slowly the numbers of clones you use and dispelling them slowly as well. Suiten is a good, balanced element. Strong attacks and defense. The Nadaime Hokage was a master of Suiten and could pull it from the air. If you could manage that, you wouldn't even need to be near a body of water. You should try to stay on Gamabunta-sama's good side. From my understanding, boss summons tend to be a little, well, they can act like divas, but don't tell anyone I said that or it's another month added to your hospital stay. Smiley face. Get stronger and stay well. Shizune Kato. Chapter 4. Naruto Uzumaki age 7. Having just unlocked his chakra, I am not left with a decision. Naruto has a good deal of chakra for his age and it will only increase. It is likely that the academy exercises would not be enough, and it would be foolish and unfair to expect a boy to prioritize chakra control with no prompting from an outside source. It is also apparent from his disguised sessions with Inoichi that Naruto's need for acknowledgement from the villagers may overwhelm all other concerns, negatively impacting his studies. I could train him privately, but the risks are the same as with every child pushed too hard too fast, examples not need be given. Another such risk is that Naruto may grow to resent the villagers if he excels but still is not acknowledged as such. Unfortunately, Naruto cannot be allowed to indulge in such emotions, even if they are justified. It shames me to even think this, but due to his burden, Naruto must be loyal to Konoha. Him considering attacking the villagers or leaving the village simply can't happen. It is unfair, and given the extent of the injustices he has endured, none greater than being denied knowledge of his lineage and his burden, I have to add another. Why make this a dichotomous choice? Truthfully, it would not do for Naruto to possess skills he had not been taught at the academy only to have the villagers claim it a sign of the demon taking hold, but demanding he keep his progress secret would only bristle against his need to be seen as valuable. In the end, I believe giving Naruto at least a chance at a normal life is better than not. Any deficiencies he may develop, I believe, can be overcome with a diligent Junin sensei. Naruto Uzumaki age 9. Just out of idle curiosity I tested his chakra affinity, wind. Of course it'd be the rarest element in the village. I wonder if Asuma would be willing to take a team. Naruto struggles in school, being near universally disliked doesn't exactly help. I've checked to make sure there is no active sabotage and all examples discovered have been remedied, however, that doesn't negate the impact of the unfairness he experiences. He has taken to pranking as an outlet, and while not ideal, I can't fault him some form of social protest. He's actually good, if only he'd learn the point was not to get caught, although he doesn't get caught so much as he doesn't deny responsibility when accused. I've taken to making him walk me through his process so he's never wrongly punished for something he didn't do. Naruto Uzumaki age 10. If not for the clone jutsu he'd be a genin now, but it's too early and I can't be sure a Junin wouldn't fail a team just to fail him and force him into the reserves. I know he won't be able to perform this jutsu, but if it keeps him from graduating ahead of schedule then I will allow it. When his class is scheduled to graduate, I will give him the promotion after the test and a clone jutsu, water or earth most likely. Naruto Uzumaki age 11. Many think Naruto is slow-witted and I have, myself, had concerns about his acuity and focus, but the attention to detail and level of thought he puts into his pranks would disprove these accusations. It was by accident I stumbled across the issue. While treating him to ramen I watched as Naruto held 3 full conversations simultaneously, something that should be impossible, but he did it without struggle. The 2 ramen chefs saw nothing wrong with this, which leads me to believe he's been able to do it for some time. This would lead me to speculate that Naruto is able to contain multiple lines of thought wholly unrelated to each other at one time. If that's the case, he'd have trouble focusing as he's essentially living much of his life without a filter. Something else to add to his sensei, likely Kakashi. Naruto Uzumaki age 12. He knows about his burden now and took the news well, better than I could have hoped. With him learning the shadow clone jutsu in a single night, any gaps in his knowledge can be corrected. I find myself reluctant to give him to Kakashi, but a leader must have faith in those he commands. If, for some reason, Naruto fails the true genin test, I will take him on as my last apprentice. Maybe I will finally train a Hokage yet. As Tsunade read through her sensei's observations regarding Naruto, she can't help but wonder if there wasn't more he could do even if he didn't think it so. It read as if Hiruzen took the path of least resistance as it resulted in his preferred outcome, a Naruto too emotionally dependent to consider defecting. Her time being Hokage has demonstrated the hard decisions and compromises one needs to make, even acknowledging the War Hawk as one such example, but was this really necessary? Could Sarutobi find no one in this village that could raise Naruto? And if so, how did that level of animus fester for so long? She'd have to investigate, because people ostracizing a child for that long when he displayed violent tendencies is absurd and she doesn't want it to continue. Naruto shouldn't have to nearly kill himself to gain acceptance or a sense of peace. Danzo was prompt in his delivery of the training materials, and from what the blonde Hokage saw, it seemed it would be quite beneficially to Naruto, even if him slipping in his own books covering tactics, strategy and multi-party conflict resolution felt a little self-indulgent. How could a Warhawk, future usurper, have so much time and still run his shadow government? Tsunade wondered and then laughed to herself as she felt jealous he had a lighter workload than her. The training of her ninja forces seemed to be going well, most hitting the desired benchmarks. Even Kakashi is managing to keep his head out of his ass long enough to be of some use. There will be a Chunin exam soon, and if the teams that go put forth a strong enough showing, she'll find ways to get them field promotions if they don't earn it at the exams. Now, if only Jiraiya would come through with some solid intelligence. Her updates from the Anbu team had not been promising, and she is torn because she doesn't have the time to hold Jiraiya's hand through this, but she won't alleviate his guilt, denial or whatever else is wrong with him by informing him Naruto is still alive. It was luck that saved Jiraiya from it being true, but he needs to live with his choices, and when the time comes for him to find out, they'll both just have to deal with the fallout. Anbu, despite what many believe, are not necessarily the strongest shinobi in a hidden village, though are generally quite adept at combat. Those selected to join the elite service, however, tend to have special skills that can be utilized, and since most of their work is clandestine, they must excel at stealth and flawless teamwork. Anbu must also be highly disciplined. The mandates of their workload demand as much, so it is saying something when one manages to annoy an Anbu to the point of making passive-aggressive statements. Jiraiya has gone past this stage and is nearing outright insubordination as his squad is getting fed up with the Sanin's antics and their lack of progress. As distracted as he is, Jiraiya has noticed the turn in the environment and frankly simply didn't care at first. He had become accustomed to people criticizing his habits. However, when the mild disrespect morphed into a constant questioning of his decisions and unspoken demands that he justify himself, Jiraiya had reached his limit, which is why he has his hand around the neck of one of the said Anbu while the others are trying to separate them. Say it again, you little shit. The Gamma Sanin roared as he finally let go of the Anbu member. Taking a moment to stop coughing, while rubbing his neck, Rat responded, "We've been at this for months without a solid lead. We know no more now than we did when we left, and your taste for sake and whores isn't going to change that. I didn't become a shinobi to watch one of our legends disgrace himself, and we all could be put to better use. Fine then, return to Konoha. Tell Tsunade I relieved you of your duty." "Oh, piss off." Hawk cut in. "We only answer to Hokage-sama and we don't tell her to do anything. Until she orders us back we're stuck with you. I'd like to think my time away from my kids counts for something. This isn't it." He finished. "Look, there is an art to intelligence gathering that you aren't familiar with, so just let me handle things how I handle them. We've been letting you handle them, there has been no results. Where is the Uzumaki anyway? I thought he was your apprentice, shouldn't he be here with you?" Asked Mole. "He's in an undisclosed location known to only Tsunade and I. Don't inquire about his location again." "Fine, where to next?" Asked Rabbit. "Yugakure. And what do we plan to find there, Jiraiya-sama?" Asked Mole. "I have an information broker there, I'll see if he knows anything." The four Anbu nod, but as Jiraiya departs, Hawk summons a messenger bird with an emergency message for Tsunade. They were not going to fail their mission because of Jiraiya. Staring at me will not accomplish anything. You gave me your word. I'm old, Fukasaku, sometime my mind slips. Besides, the boy has the right to know a prophecy pertaining to him. You don't know that it was merely a guess. You being old and generally useless is one thing. Even retaining a seat of honor and authority I can accept, but to do this to another of my pupils, once more. The boy was getting a firm hold on himself again, and you may have undone months of work, you selfish blight. You'll be relocating to the mountains. Live the rest of your days in seclusion, your time has long passed, Gamamaru. You think I will just leave because you command me to do so?" Fukasaku said nothing, he just tapped his walking stick to the ground and three Tonto-wielding toads emerged from the shadows. The consequence of refusal having been made sufficiently clear, Fukasaku turns to leave, neither toad exchanging any more words. Fukasaku made his way to Naruto and Shima, taking a deliberate pace to calm himself. After coming to terms with his outrage, Fukasaku reached his pupil but allowed the boy to speak first. "Were you going to tell me?" "I don't know. Possibly, later near the end of your time here. Did you not trust me to handle it, that I'd be too fragile to deal with the responsibility?" Naruto asked, with a defeated tone. "It was not an issue of trust but partially. Yes, I didn't think you were strong enough to handle this weight." Seeing Naruto was about to respond, Fukasaku lifted his hand, signaling Naruto to stay silent. "What you had considered doing was no small thing, tadpole. Until you had sufficiently healed, what could a prophecy that may or may not be about you do? Make you feel even more guilty for contemplating ending your life?" Seeing his pupil's look of shock, Fukasaku replied, "You didn't think I noticed. You've been getting better at masking your emotions, but I'm quite old, it'd take a lot to fool me. Naruto, this prophecy may very well be about you, but if it were outside of training for known threats, what could you have done? You don't know what choices or non-choices would tip the scales in one direction or another. But I have to at least try, right? Even if it isn't me, I should at least try. I suppose. I'll curse that old toad until the day I depart this realm for putting this on you. 1 month, in 1 month I'll expect you to have mastered everything you've learned thus far up to my standards. After that, we'll get into your advanced training, including the material your father left here. When I deem you ready, you'll start taking on some missions back in your realm." "Really? Wait, my father. You know who my father was?" But, Naruto paused. Living with the toads for as long as he has, he realizes that they wouldn't keep things here for just anyone, so his father had to be a previous summoner. The two most famous summoners were Jiraiya and, no fucking way. Ouch. Naruto shouted as he was hit on the head by Fukasaku's cane. Yes, he indeed was your father, and while I didn't know your mother extremely well, I will request Tsunade send any information or belongs she has of her and him. What was her name? Kushina Uzumaki. From what I remember of her, you two had a lot in common. Even more so considering she used to contain the fox you now hold. Wah! Yay, you didn't think giant foxes just appeared out of nowhere, did you? Never really considered it, honestly. It's not a day most people like to remember, and my best source of information was Gigi. Correction, your best source of information is the Kyuubi. During the next phase of your training, you will be coming into contact with him to see if you two can come to terms with each other. Do you think it'll help me use his chakra? I have no idea, he may never allow you true access to his chakra. You can either grow strong enough so it doesn't matter or continue to take it by force if you so choose, though I would recommend not doing the latter. Ultimately, it is your choice. So, save or end the shinobi way. And I used to just worry about shaming myself in front of my friends. It's a reasonable concern as any other. Just remember. Fukasaku was saying before Naruto finished. Every burden is lighter when shared with others. Hey Ba-chan. It's been a bit since I sent a letter, so I just wanted to check in. I'm doing okay, I think. Well, that's not entirely true. I had been improving, hadn't had a bad day in a while. It's so peaceful here and the toads are so kind and welcoming. It hadn't occurred to me until today how little I miss home. The toads don't glare at me, they don't put me down or make me feel like a failure when I mess up. It's a good feeling, and the more I grow accustomed to it, the more I worry that my drive to prove myself to the villagers was rooted in a perceived lack of choice. I never considered the possibility that I could leave Konoha or that I would be treated better anywhere else. Being out of the village on missions exposed me to the reality, but because the stays were so short I could generally put it out of my mind, even if there was a low-level reluctance to return. But because of what I am, I now know I never really had the option to leave. Never had the option to not be a shinobi, which really makes my sensei and their continued disinterest in my development all the more confusing. Did they believe I didn't deserve to be trained because I wouldn't be allowed to fail? Was I less to them or just something they had to deal with until some unspecified time? I don't like thinking like that. I never used to. It was like when I started, I could just will the thoughts away, but I don't seem to be able to do that anymore, so now there is just so much that I hadn't considered before, but it dances around in my mind. I think back on the time I spent with Gigi but can't block out the lifetime of lies he told me. I remember sharing dinner with Iruka at Ichiraku, but also remember how he yelled out my failure during my final genin exam. I remember my time with Team 7 and all the good times are blocked by insults, both levied and received, the fights, Sakura's fists connecting with my head. I remember Sasuke impaling me with his Chidori when I deliberated avoided hitting him with my Rasengan. I remember it all and I get angry. But it's so pointless. If I were going to be angry, surely now is not the time. Not when all of this is in the past, but I don't know what to do with it. I don't think I can just ignore it anymore, but I don't want to hold grudges against my precious people, although strangely you trying to obliterate me when we first met only makes me chuckle. I think I had it, at least some of it, coming. It just makes Konoha feel like an obligation and I don't know what to do with that. Or any of it really. Fukasaku-sensei stresses the importance of a shinobi mastering themselves, so I guess my change in thinking can be credited to his training. But I am scared, Ba-chan. I don't know who I'll be when this is all over, but I don't want to be a bitter, angry person tallying up the wrongs done to me and looking to settle scores. Is it really as simple as a choice, though? I'm not sure, but I feel I can't go back to how I was, so my only choice is to see things through to the end, whatever it may be. I hope it isn't someone unrecognizable. N. Uzumaki. Chapter 5. Dear Naruto. Your anger is understandable and you have every right to it. As ninja, we are told to disregard your emotions or compartmentalize them so we can continue on. This is unhealthy. I lost myself to my grief, so it may sound hypocritical coming from me, but you shouldn't repress your emotions nor should you dwell on them. What you should do is work through them. No single emotion has a destined reaction, and how you react is something you can control. If you are angry, understand why and resolve to not allow that treatment to happen in the future. If I had found it in myself to work through my issues, who knows what changes that would have wrought. The process may be long, it will certainly be difficult, but if you can find peace within and with yourself, it'll be worth it. Don't worry so much about changing, you're supposed to, and even if you aren't the brat you were when you left, those who care about you should be willing to adjust. Don't diminish yourself for the sake of others, become the best version of yourself. Also, take time to relax. Introspection is good, too much makes you boring and broody. If you come back all sullen, I'll punch it right out of you. Yes, I know I contradicted myself. When you can crack mountains with your fists, you can do that. Smiley face. Tsunade Senju. Earth style. Earth wall, Kiba yelled and still managed to create a wall that wouldn't protect him from a fart, and given his past one would think he'd be motivated to protect himself from that. Kakashi, fighting the urge to create an Earth-style wall and ram Kiba's head into it, knows he isn't being fair comparing Kiba to Naruto. While Naruto would have stayed training all day and all night until he mastered the jutsu, Kiba works hard until he is told he can stop. It's understandable, and yet the copy ninja really hates the kid. He knows it's his fault he never got to teach Naruto elemental manipulation. He could have keyed the kid in on the shadow clone trick and rammed his head full of jutsu. Maybe even given him something to counter the Chidori, but he didn't. What he has done is attempt to help the fellow rookies learn some jutsu so they'd have a better chance at the Chunin exams, and yet he finds he really hates them all. He may kill Shikamaru, Shikaku and Asuma be damned. He'll snap that little fucker's neck. Granted, the boy is already a Chunin, which Kakashi feels is rather complete and total bullshit. His strategy may have been impressive, but you don't get timeouts in real Chunin fights. When Kakashi watched the recording of Naruto's fight, at least he was coming up with strategies on the fly, in the heat of things. Anyway, if he hears, troublesome, again, Kakashi is sure he'll snap and harm the boy. At least he is, even if it is undeserving in Kakashi's estimation, a Chunin. His other teammates are just as lazy with none of the accomplishment. Kakashi assumes Choji is a sweet kid, but the constant munching is more annoying than the numerous troublesomes. He has thought a lot about calling the kid fat just to see what happens. Granted, when one who is quite hefty gets stuck in the ground during a Earth-style, hiding like a mole jutsu, you invite certain thoughts about yourself. Ino. She screeches, he hates that. Enough said. Shino, Kakashi is convinced, will either be dead by Kakashi's hand or vice versa within 5 years. He has no idea why he thinks that, but he is rather convinced it is true nonetheless. He'll start making plans now, as he assumes Shino will, if he hasn't started already. A nod from the boy is taken as confirmation. The great game is afoot. Hinata reminds him so much of Naruto that it's painful. The little kunoichi that could, except she can't form a fireball. He really wants her to just form the fireball. It's just a fireball. He knows she's giving her all, but damn, it's just a fireball. He could do that when he was 8 and his balls hadn't even dropped. It's frustrating. Sakura doesn't care if it isn't medical ninjutsu, and he honestly doesn't care enough to make her care. He spends nights trying to rationalize ways to place some of the blame on her. Yes, it's unfair. Kakashi is in his petty bag right now. Guy's team, Dear Lord the Hyuga and clone could test the patience of a sage. The panda girl is cool. Not a natural with ninjutsu, but she is putting forth the effort, though seems more interested in the chakra flow techniques instead of jutsu proper. That's more Asuma's thing, too lazy like his team of fuckheads to weave some hand signs. Kakashi had to shake his head, he really isn't handling this well. These are his comrades in the future, and they were precious to Naruto. He should want to help them get strong for Naruto's sake. And he will. But he hates them all the same. Teams. Jiraiya has screwed up a lot in life. So much that people may be liable to call him a screw-up if not for his well-known accomplishments. Being a Sannin and training a Kage grants you some leeway. However, patience and permissiveness are finite commodities, and Jiraiya knew he had exhausted both by what stood in front of him. A part of him wanted to simply run, let things cool down before he had to confront the unavoidable storm before him. However, delay would only make things worse. Intellectually he knew that, but screw-ups have a special voice in their heads that make them want to pick the worst option, often out of blind confidence or desperation. A lot of, what's the worst that could happen, is heard before the screwing up occurs, so Jiraiya was caught at war with himself at the exact time he needed to not be. Deciding the silence had held long enough, she spoke, I don't enjoy being summoned here by my Anbu, Jiraiya. I don't enjoy them telling me how you are failing in your duties once again. Seeing Jiraiya about to respond, Tsunade holds up her hand. No, no talking from you. I speak, you listen. You may think me a hypocrite for chastising you for your failures, but remember, I didn't ask to be Hokage. You came to me and used Naruto to emotionally manipulate me. So, I'm Hokage and I'm not going to fuck around, Jiraiya. If you can't handle gathering intelligence, then get lost somewhere nobody knows you and can't report on your whereabouts. I'll dedicate more resources to collecting information because I can't keep waiting on you to get yourself together. You're right, you are being a hypocrite, but at least you wear it well. I'm sorry I can't just pull myself together after losing the last of my family. If only I had permission to get lost in a bottle and gambling halls for years, disgracing myself the entire time. Is that supposed to hurt me, Jiraiya? Or guilt me in some way? Just stating facts, Haim. Oh, you want to state some facts, Jiraiya. Okay, let's state some facts. I left the village after the majority of the people I have ever loved were killed, the last two being entirely preventable. I tried my best to enact the changes required to protect them, but our sensei dismissed my proposal, and a few years later, right around the time a new medical corps would be ready to join all ninja squads, I lose my brother and have to watch the man I love die, drowning in his own blood. You lost Naruto because you couldn't give a shit to try. That's not. Shut up, Jiraiya. I'm talking now. You didn't give a shit. You never met the boy until he was already a teenager, and your most significant act was tossing him off a cliff because you couldn't be bothered to actually teach. The boy loses the one person he saw as family, and were you there for him? Did you help him through his grief? Nope. You just dragged him along to confront a bitter, old drunk and managed to get him almost kidnapped and nearly killed. And his reward for that? You have teaching him the Rasengan. You never went out of your way for Naruto, you never did anything that would inconvenience you on his behalf. So, you want me to state some more facts? Are you ready to shut the fuck up and do your goddamn job? What do you want me to say, Tsunade? I never thought being his godfather would entail much because I never thought something would happen to Minato and Kushina. I don't care. I'm not here for you to unburden yourself. You don't deserve it. Live with the cost of your failure. Live with the knowledge that your indifference broke a boy when a lifetime of scorn and mistreatment couldn't. My only concern is if you're of use. So, are you Jiraiya? Are you of use? So, that's how it's going to be. You know, it's not like Jiraiya started before he was interrupted. Are you of use or are you not of use? Fine, for No, not for Naruto. That ship has sailed. There is no redemption to be found, Jiraiya. Naruto is gone from you. This is just the cold, hard business of a shinobi village. You won't even give me that comfort. No. Fine, Tsunade. I'll get your damn intel and we can go on from there, but we're finished as anything more than shinobi and cage. Jiraiya spat. That ship, too, has sailed. Do you think my words were empty when I said I was putting my faith in Naruto? That it was just the heat of the moment thing? If so, then you really don't know me. You have no idea what that boy meant to me, and I entrusted his welfare to you, Jiraiya. Not because you were his godfather, I could give two shits about your claim to him, but because I trusted you. I trusted you with one of the most precious things in the world to me, and you broke it. You dimmed his light until it was extinguished, and now everything is a little darker for me. I'll never go back to that place I was before Naruto, and you found me because I wouldn't disgrace him, but damn it if it isn't alluring. You took something from me, and Jiraiya, you'll never know how close I was to killing you. Friendship didn't stay my hand, only the thought that Naruto wouldn't want that, wouldn't want those he cared about at each other's throats over him, but that can only deter me for so long. Just do your fucking job and stop wasting my anbu. If we never speak face to face again, it's fine with me. You died along with Naruto as far as I'm concerned. Tsunade said and dispersed in a cloud of smoke, signaling it was a shadow clone the entire time. Jiraiya could only lean back in his bed, mind racing at the words of his former teammate and object of unrequited love. Absorbing the memories of her clone, Tsunade didn't know if the exchange she had with Jiraiya was the appropriate energy to bring into this meeting, but another part of her, she calls it her Uzumaki side, said fuck it, if they have a problem they can fight her. Getting back into serious training may have made her a tad more aggressive than she'd been in recent years, to the terror of her loyal Anbu training dummies. Sitting in front of her is a collection of shinobi clan heads and prominent civilians within the village. Thank you all for coming. I now call this closed-door session to commence. The topic today is of one Chunin Uzumaki Naruto, she said, and watched as many in the room had several emotions run across their face. Tsunade decided to continue. I was made aware by the Sandame's notes that much of the village carried a long-running antipathy toward the young man, and I'd like to get to the bottom of it. From Sensei's notes, Naruto never stole, never acted violently, and at most conducted elaborate pranks, but was not the first academy student to do so. While I am Hokage and while he is under my command, I will not allow large-scale civil disobedience to continue, so please inform me of your issues. Isn't he the fox? One civilian said. What the shit? No, he isn't the fox, why would you think he was? Asked Tsunade. Because it's the only thing that makes sense. Almost everyone thinks that. We figured the Sandame said differently because he believed he could control it, but how could a baby hold back a being that powerful when our shinobi forces couldn't? She said to many nodding heads. So, you're an expert on Fuinjutsu now? No, they all responded. So, how is it your place to question the Sandame, assume he was lying and go on to subvert his intention? Because nothing else made sense. It can't be possible that at the very least the boy would be influenced by the demon. How could we know we were safe? The fact that in his entire life he's never hurt any of you nor anyone you know wasn't evidence enough? Asked Tsunade. No, because the fox could have just been waiting. Until when? Also, was that going to be your excuse for the rest of your Naruto's life? The fox is just being patient. Many of us don't feel that way anymore. We heard about him beating the sand demon and helping bring you back, but Tsunade-sama, please understand, not only did the boy carry a being of pure destruction, but he had no history, no claim to anything. He just appeared, so it was hard to see him as anything else when no one, not even the shinobi, treated him as more than a nuisance. If the boy had a family, I think we could have believed he really was just a child. So you can believe the Yondaime could turn the fox human or seal the fox in the boy, but you can't believe he could seal the fox in the boy but not have the boy influenced. Why, yes. They answered tentatively. The problem is, you don't get to decide. You all are experts on ninja affairs when it suits you. None of you know the first thing about Fuinjutsu, so you deciding what was true or not based on your own perceptions is asinine. I know many of us understand that now, Tsunade-sama, and we regret avoiding the boy and making him feel unwelcomed. We ignored the Yondaime's final wish, and I'm not proud of that, said one civilian. Neither am I, many replied back. Okay, I think most of you get it, but spread it around. I'm lifting the Sandame's law. If I get wind of any of you spreading misinformation that Naruto is or is being unduly influenced by the fox, I'll have you and everyone you told executed. No exceptions, am I clear? Hi. Good, you're dismissed. I'd like the clan heads to stay a little longer. Tisk. So, I owe you an apology. The first time we spoke I was a brat. I was scared, and when I get scared I bluster through on false confidence. I could have come to you differently, so I'm sorry. Apology accepted, now go away. Well, I can't, big guy. We have some things to discuss and I'd rather do it sooner than later. I won't give you any more of my chakra. I did that and you almost got yourself killed. By an Uchiha no less, due to your foolishness. If you request power, at least have the decency to use it. Okay, I can accept that note, that's constructive. I feel like we're opening up a viable dialogue that will allow us to both self-actualize, thereby achieving the necessary catharsis to establish a fruitful relationship. If you know what any of that means, I'll eat one of my tails. Ha ha ha, I think I get the broad strokes since Shizune Nichan sent me a lot of psychology books, but more importantly, I'm trying to avoid making this hostile. You don't want to be here, I don't particularly want you here. You don't want to give me your power, truthfully I don't want it. However, we have a group of people after the both of us and I don't have the luxury for excessive pride. Why should I care? One container is the same as another. True, it may not make a difference, however, can you think of a reason this organization would want all of the Biju together outside of 9 new Jinchuriki? If that were the case, why not just flip us, since I assume most aren't treated all that well? The only thing I can think of is too terrifying to even fully consider and would require abilities no human has possessed in generations. And yet there is a lot we don't know, so why not just tell me? What is 9 was once 1? The sage of sixth paths created is from the Jubi, a creature you should pray is never reformed because if it is all you love will perish. So, what can we do? I can't do this alone and you don't appear to want to be absorbed back into the collective. That assumes an absolute worst case scenario and while it may be worth planning for, ultimately I'd be free of you selfish humans so what difference would it make, really? I don't know. Shit. This is all a bit much, ya know. I find out my freaking dad sealed you in me after you got out of my mom. Total mind fuck. Some old toad tells me I'm some sort of savior maybe. At least you aren't threatening to eat me but the whole, ultimate beast of destruction should you fail. Thing is a double mind fuck. I don't know if I want to work with you but I may need to work with you. We each have reasons to say fuck it and walk away but I'm hoping we'll choose something else. And what is that? That we'll say, fuck it, let's make a deal. Ah but the issue is you have nothing I want. That's not true. I have the one thing every intelligent being wants. And what is that? Good company. Naruto said which caused the great fox to laugh. You. Good company. If I didn't constantly heal you I'd assume you had permanent brain damage. Oi. Okay, yay, I've been a bit of a dumbass for a while. Never took to books, I like to be on the move but I am changing. Besides, I'm sure you have a wealth of experiences so who says I'd need to provide the discussion topics? You are serious. You want to talk to me. And have me talk about myself. What would you like to know? How I killed your parents when they tried to seal me inside you. Ran them through with my claws. Fukusaku-sensei already told me they had puncture wounds but dad's summoning of the Shinigami and mom having you extracted meant they'd have died anyway. What you did was just a bid for freedom. More importantly, the whole trying to push me away and find my limits so I leave you before you get attached is literally textbook. It's like page 117. Who knew Biju and human psychology would overlap? Naruto said grinning. Don't be so smug, boy. I'm not and I know you've been attempting to force me out of my mindscape since I got here so you can stop now. Look, I'm not going anywhere so what do you have to lose? Why don't we start from scratch? My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like training, my precious people and the rare quiet moments where everything feels still. I dislike those who disregard others for petty, selfish reasons and Shima Basama's cooking. My goals are to become Hokage and hopefully leave the world better and more peaceful than when I came into it. I'd also like to be more than an obnoxious knucklehead. What's your name? Your mother never asked me my name. Mito didn't either. Bothersome, little fool. My father named me Kurama. I like freedom and peace and fighting Shikaku. I dislike humans. I have no goals but I was once tasked with a mission that I don't know if I'll ever fulfill. Could you tell me about your father, Kurama-san? I suppose. But don't think this means we're becoming friends or anything it's just my father was actually something special. Not some blonde bastard teleporting around, playing with forces beyond his kin. Naruto had to fight back a smile when he replied. I'm sure he was. My father was named. Chapter 6. He got the panicked report from Gamakiri that the pair had already arrived and one was engaging the cage. Fukusaku gave him some words of support. Remember your training, he said before he sent the 16-year-old off to an unsure situation. When Naruto arrived just outside of Suna he made sure to stick to the shadows but could clearly see Gaara facing some Yamanaka-looking guy on a bird. From what information Fukusaku managed to get from Tsunade, he's Deidara of Iwa and has the Bakuden bloodline, a mid to long distance fighter specializing in explosions. Naruto created a clone to find the second of the pair, Sasori, but paid special heed to remain unseen for as long as he could so to not distract the Suna forces. Continuing to shadow Gaara and Deidara became more difficult as the duo flew through the streets of Suna but Naruto could sense Deidara's mounting frustration. A frustrated demolitions expert can only end one way, though Naruto was proud that his friend had kept up with the S-rank criminal and avoided property damage and casualties of his people. Naruto saw Deidara increase his elevation and then suddenly create a massive clay sculpture, one large enough to level a significant portion of Suna. He's going to force Gaara to protect the village and exhaust himself, Naruto thought and realized this was his time to act. Taking out two tri-pronged kunai, Naruto tossed one directly under the path of the large bomb. Gaara had been taken by surprise at the sudden attack upon his village and made haste to root out the assailants. When he saw the blonde in the cloak he realized it was the Akatsuki, having been informed by the Godime Hokage. He had thought he had prepared sufficient security at the entrance of his village and briefly wondered if there was a mole within his ranks. He quickly let that thought go as he had to defend his village, and himself, from the terrorist before him. Gaara had to lament that had he the same mentality of his younger self this fight would be somewhat easier. He wouldn't have to bother playing defense to protect the villagers, but as Cage he could do nothing but. The Akatsuki had made sure to keep his distance and it appeared that he was mounting one big attack. Gaara had started to run low on chakra, determined to not draw on Shukaku and risk losing control. As he prepared a massive dome of sand he saw a kunai fly past him. The ceiling array that appeared to swallow his perfect creation was the first sign something was off. When said creation detonated miles outside of the village that was another. It was the third sign that most worried Deidara, but it would be the one he was least able to react to. A flash of yellow, a well-known color to all Iwa Nin as it was the color of the boogeyman himself. Deidara feared little in this world but every Iwa Nin feared that color. His mind separated in a dozen different directions, wanting to slip into denial, wanting to create counter-plans but he could only stand still up top his clay bird before he felt something cold on his neck. And then, it was over. Deidara would never lay eyes on the person who killed him, never truly know what killed him. The S-rank criminal last moments were of a man reduced to a near panic, followed the embrace of nothingness. Gaara, however, did see the person that killed Deidara. While others may have been distracted by the explosion outside the village, the Cage was not one to lose focus of his enemy. That an exact copy of the ninja that had managed to stab his sword into the missing 9 from his collarbone through his torso was standing aside the Suna leader also didn't escape his notice. Gaara then saw the shinobi perform a series of hand seals right before another explosion occurred but was maintained in the bubble created by that jutsu. Cage-sama, here, the shinobi handed him a soldier pill. I know where Sasori is and if you'll come with me we can end this. You'll have to forgive me, Konoha-san, but who are you? Gaara asked. The shinobi had taken care to remain mostly covered as he was wearing midnight blue pants, shirt, face mask and even a bandana that covered his hair. The only noticeable feature were the shinobi's blue eyes. Gaara watched as the shinobi rolled his eyes before speaking, Gaara, it's me, Naruto, and then removed his mask and bandana. So it is. I guess there is no time to catch up so I'll follow you. Okay, just to warn you, this feels weird the first time. What do? Gaara wasn't allowed to finish before he was engulfed in a flash of yellow. Kankuro was a confident young man. He had every reason to be. While not the powerhouse his brother was, he still excelled at his chosen specialty. Many considered him the best puppeteer since Sasori and that was a distinction he wore with pride. However, he was not arrogant, the harshness of desert life rarely left room for it so while he may have been the best since Sasori, he didn't delude himself into thinking he was better than Sasori. One, then, could forgive him for the string of expletives he had on a constant loop inside his head as he found himself face to face, so to speak, with Sasori himself. Overwhelmed wouldn't begin to describe how he felt. His only saving grace had been a random futon or sweetened jutsu used to support him and distract Sasori but when Sasori tried to attack in the direction the jutsu originated from he hit nothing. Kankuro was eventually able to make Sasori reveal his true body and things had escalated from there. Being attacked by a zombie Sandame Cage is just a miserable experience. Watching said puppet be destroyed with a well-timed wind blade, however, was the height of joy as far as Kankuro was concerned. Due to the bipolar nature of the emotions he was feeling, Kankuro didn't know how to feel when he saw a flash of light, until he saw a shinobi he didn't know standing beside his brother, a brother who looked incredibly annoyed but wasted no time in surrounding Sasori and sand. Final words. You deserve that much, Gaara said as both S-class products of Suna recognized the end. Sasori had been prevented from summoning any more of his puppets and seemed resigned to his death. At Tenchi Bridge, I am scheduled to meet a spy I have under Orochimaru in 2 weeks' time. Maybe you can kill that annoying prick. We'll see. Sand coffin, Gaara said before crushing all that was Sasori. Do you think he meant the spy was annoying or Orochimaru? Seeing both Suna Nin look at him, Naruto continued, what, it was an ambiguous statement. You're just too much, Naruto, said Gaara. This is Naruto. The blonde shrimp. That defeated the person you couldn't sneeze on, makeup boy. Naruto finished for Kankuro. Oh, shit. Guys, I have to get going. I was supposed to report to Tsunade-chan today and, shit, she's going to kill me. She's going to punch me to the moon and then I'm going to be stuck on the moon with some weird Bishonen-looking bastard. Naruto, if you don't leave, best friend or not I may have to drown you in sand. Naruto only chuckles and hugs his brother in burden. You're so mean, Gaara. But I must be off. Naruto said before flashing away. Several jumps and moments later, Naruto was in front of a very unhappy Godime Hokage and an amused Fukusaku-sensei. So, you just went to Suna and fought two S-rank criminals without my having ordered you to do so. Technically, yes. In my defense time was of the essence. I also told the boy to do so. It wouldn't be the first high-ranking shinobi he's combated. You're right, it's just, Naruto they could have attempted to take you too. I know but I was extra careful. Neither of them even saw me, I just supported Gaara and Kankuro for the most part. Yes, teleporting a massive bomb can't be classified under simple support now can it? It can if you squint just right. Don't be funny brat, I have half a mind to punch you to the moon. Called it damn it, was the response from Naruto and Fukusaku respectively as Fukusaku handed Naruto a scroll, causing Tsunade to raise an eyebrow. The tadpole said that'd be your reaction, I bet differently and lost. He seems to know you well. Don't bet on my reactions, Naruto, that's an order. Not even with you. I wouldn't engage in such undignified behavior, brat. You wanna bet? Name your Santa, damn it. Tsunade finished to Naruto's laugh. Too well, maybe. Well, Ma is waiting for me so well Jiraiya be here soon. Yes, we have just enough time to fill in Naruto. Fill me in about what? Naruto, Jiraiya and Kakashi think you actually committed suicide. Why? Because I allowed them to think so. You may think it cruel but they needed to understand the full weight of their actions. Not only because of who you are but because of what you contain. If you never used a drop of the Kyuubi's chakra I'd be fine with it but had you killed yourself it would have returned and we don't know if it would have come back for revenge or what. Naruto didn't immediately respond to Tsunade's words. She admitted it was cruel, there was no need for him to point it out so Naruto forced himself to go past his initial reaction to really hear what she was saying. At his absolute lowest moment, he could have very well damned a great many people even if Kurama had no intention of harming anyone, the likelihood he'd be left alone were nil. He was under the care of Jiraiya and while Naruto made it a point to not blame Jiraiya directly for his state of mind he wouldn't deny the man's actions contributed to them. Fukusaku-sensei was a fan of the phrase necessary but not sufficient and Jiraiya's actions were just the last of a lifetime of unbearable weight that finally made the blonde buckle. Was allowing his godfather to think he was dead just. Tsunade had never struck him as malicious so maybe there was something he was missing. Seeing both the Hokage and his sensei look at him in anticipation he finally spoke. I understand your reasoning but it still feels extreme. I'm not judging, I guess I just don't understand. Surely the letter would have been enough. Unlikely, Fukusaku started. There would have been a period of recrimination but there is a certain kind of morbid freedom in the irreversibility of your death. There could be no false promises to make it up to you or to do better. The failure was absolute. This was not done solely to punish them, Naruto, though I'll admit when I saw your state of mind I was furious with Jiraiya. Still but I took no delight in his suffering. However, I needed him to do better, you and the village did as well. Especially when I felt his handicapping you was motivated by selfishness, said Tsunade. What do you mean? Naruto asked, to which Tsunade looked at Fukusaku. Tadpole, before I lost faith in Jiraiya I was content with allowing him to decide when you'd find out about your heritage and receive the works of your parents. Jiraiya insisted you weren't mature enough but Tsunade and I both believe he would have waited to tell you, provided he ever did, when it best suited his purposes. Namely when he was sure you wouldn't turn your back on him out of spite. Because of the prophecy. I don't know. Fukusaku replied before being interrupted by a knock and Shizune peeking her head in. Lady Tsunade, Jiraiya and Kakashi are both here. Thank you, Shizune, send them in. Tsunade said and then instructed Naruto to stand beside her. Naruto watched as his two former, and nominal, sensei entered the room. Kakashi's visible eye was devoid of emotion, Jiraiya's eyes showed a barely restrained anger but then shock when he saw Fukusaku there. With the briefest of nods from the two, Tsunade spoke. Tonight, the Akatsuki made a move on the cage. What happened? We need to scramble a team, replied Kakashi. No need, the situation has been resolved thanks to this Chunin here. How is that possible? Suna is 3 days away. I guess he's his father's son. Nay, don't be so cryptic, Ba-chan. Naruto said. After an intense moment of silence, Jiraiya spoke. How? Or why? The how is luck, the why is because you needed to live with the consequences of your actions, Jiraiya, replied Fukasaku. So you allow me to believe my godson is dead. All the years I've been your summoner and you do this. Tsunade is a spiteful bitch. Jiraiya wasn't allowed to finish as he had to block Naruto's left hook. You watch your goddamn mouth. At least Tsunade gave a shit. At least she provided guidance instead of treating me like an abject failure. Naruto said as Jiraiya released his fist. Naruto. No. Look, whatever you may feel about what Sensei and Tsunade did, they helped me when I was at my lowest. You too, I don't know. I wasn't an ideal student, I can admit that, but I deserved better. If nothing else, I know that much. I didn't need either of you to be the greatest sensei, just a little better. To give half a damn instead of negatively comparing me to a legacy I didn't even know about. I suddenly find myself tired, may I be dismissed? Yes, that's fine, but be back here tomorrow. I need to schedule an assessment for you and then go over that intel from Sasori. Hi, Naruto said before disappearing via his vacuum shunshin. Damn it, I need to go talk to Naruto. You haven't been dismissed yet, Jiraiya. We still have things to discuss and you can speak to Naruto after, if he so desires. What is there to talk about? How you both turned Naruto against me. The kind boy I knew would never be okay with what you did. However Naruto feels about what we did he can tell you himself, he's an adult and will speak for himself. I want to inform you about his activities in Suna tonight. Training ground 7 noon. Naruto was informed of where his assessment would take place via messenger bird and was thankful Tsunade saved him a trip. He assumed his assessment would be against Kakashi and decided to mentally prepare to face the man, trying to recall any tendencies he showed during his tenure as Junin captain. After some meditation, which was interrupted by Kurama being an ass and some light warm-up exercises, Naruto headed over to the training ground, wearing the same style uniform he was wearing the night before. When Naruto appeared on the training ground, he was surprised to see Kakashi already there along with Jiraiya. He expected Tsunade and Shizune to be there and gave them a warm welcome before the assessment started. The rules are simple, this is a full-on spar, only killing and maiming are prohibited. Are the two combatants ready? Seeing nods, Tsunade announced the start. Okay, Naruto, Lesson 1, Taijutsu. Kakashi said as he closed the distance between the two and uncovered his Sharingan. Oh, so you do speak. I thought you had apathy-induced mutism. Naruto said as he slipped into a loose stance and awaited Kakashi's opening attack. Kakashi opened with a standing side kick, looking to maximize his reach advantage. Naruto rotated away from the kick, facing the back of Kakashi's leg and immediately drove an elbow into Kakashi's knee joint. Kakashi winced but recovered, tapping his leg on the ground to shake off the pain. Moving slightly slower, Kakashi opts for a punching combination, throwing a series of quick jabs and straights, none landing flush and most blocked or dodged. However, sensing an opening, Kakashi throws a right cross but misses. Naruto rewards his effort with quick strikes to Kakashi elbow joint and the same knee Naruto attacked earlier. Deciding to press the attack, Naruto throws a series of body blows close into Kakashi guard. While Kakashi was able to get his guard up for most of the punches, one did manage to hit him in the solar plexus and caused Kakashi to try and create some distance, but before he could, he felt Naruto grab his flak jacket and try to pull Kakashi hard to his, Naruto's, left. Kakashi instinctively pulled to the right but was caught off guard when Naruto immediately let go of him and was already aiming a right high kick to Kakashi's jawline. Kakashi managed to block the kick but was left unstable due to the bad positioning and the force of the kick. Kakashi tried to predict where the next attack was coming from and assumed Naruto would follow up with strike to the opposite side of Kakashi's face. He was surprised when he saw Naruto dropping to his knees. Before he could react, Naruto had delivered 3 strikes, a left to the interior of his right knee, a right to the interior of his left and a left to the outside of his right knee. Naruto tried to follow up with a fireman's carry takedown, but Kakashi replaced himself with a log. Interesting. He's mixing some of Minato's style, the joint attacks, with the grapples from the advanced forms of the Gamma style. Jiraiya said, impressed that Naruto was able to, at least momentarily, get the better of Kakashi and knows the Cyclops has to be hurting. Kakashi was, in fact, hurting and was attempting to get his full mobility back as his right knee in particular was starting to lock up on him. He too was impressed with Naruto's taijutsu, a style that can suffocate almost any style and punish mistakes. He decided it was time to transition to ninjutsu and play to his greatest advantage. Kakashi made his way back to the clearing prepared to school his student, only to be caught in some sticky pink substance. Before he could figure out what it was, he felt a curved knife's blade on his throat. Still looking ahead, he saw the Naruto in front of him dispel, and the one in perfect position to slit his throat chuckled. Toad Mouth Bind is such an awesome jutsu and leaves no evidence. When the one you were facing was always a shadow clone. Tsunade-sama said it was an assessment, she never said what kind. I think demonstrating I could kill an elite Junin with 2 ninjutsu and some taijutsu speaks better to my abilities as a shinobi than exchanging ninjutsu with you like an asshole. I'd have to agree, spoke Tsunade. That was quite the show. Minimalist but effective. Thank you, Ba-chan. So am I cleared to return to duty? Yes, meet me in my office in an hour so we can discuss the Sasori issue. Hi, Naruto said as he released the summoned jutsu. As Naruto was about to depart, Jiraiya called out to him, causing him to stop. Yes, Jiraiya. Kid, we need to talk. I know I have a lot to make up for and I want to. You don't owe me anything, Jiraiya. I'm no longer your apprentice, so you're under no obligation to teach me anything, neither of you are. My time as a student is over, I'll be guiding my own development from here on out. Naruto, I know we both let you down, but at least give us a chance to make things up to you, stated Kakashi only to see Naruto shake his head. I'm not the same, so trying to return back to how things were just isn't an option. We can try to build something new, but it won't be easy. I don't hate either of you, even knowing how close you were to my parents, but I am angry. However, since neither of you seem to acknowledge that connection, I won't hold you to it. Which means, I can't acknowledge you as my godfather, Jiraiya. You two also failed me as sensei, and as I said, I have no interest in being a student any longer. I can accept that, replied Kakashi. Which didn't surprise Naruto, assuming Kakashi would take the path of least resistance anyway. I can't and I won't, exclaimed Jiraiya. I don't see how you have a choice. Naruto shot back. I just won't accept it, Naruto. I can't allow you to write me off. That's more than a little hypocritical, don't you think? I don't care. I almost lost you once, I won't do it again. That's your problem. I told you where I am and I won't be bullied into something else because it's what you want. I'll see you around, Naruto said before departing by way of his vacuum shunshin. I'm going to have to get him to teach me that. Is that really all you have to say? What? It's cool. Cool is kinda my thing. So is laziness. Don't think Naruto was fooled by your acceptance. He knows you're a lazy ass just like everyone else. Maybe not, but it'll have greater results than the bull in a china shop routine you're pulling. I would love to be a proper sensei to Naruto, but he's not the boy that left. He's not a boy at all. He's requesting that we respect him as a man. The person I fought, the person who could have slit my throat and hid the body, is worthy of such a request. It isn't about respect. That's where you wrong, Jiraiya. It has always been about that. We didn't respect him, not as a student, or a comrade, so he had to go elsewhere to unlock his potential. Acknowledgement and respect has always been his aim. What hope does he have if even we can't see fit to do so? He still needs us. The Akatsuki isn't going to wait for him to find himself. God, is this what talking to me feels like? You have your head firmly up your ass, Jiraiya. You saw the report, we'll likely get confirmation in a day or two. Naruto has already faced the Akatsuki and now 2 of them are dead. He didn't do that by himself. And Konoha work in teams. Whatever is driving you to ignore this, you should stop or you'll push him away for good. Kakashi said before departing himself, leaving Jiraiya alone on the training grounds. Naruto returned to his apartment, deciding to grab a shower and a change of clothes before wandering around the village until his meeting with Tsunade. Instead of his all-blue uniform with face mask and bandana to match, Naruto opted for black Anbu pants and shinobi sandals with kunai holster on his right thigh. His shirt is also black, with long sleeves and red Uzumaki swirl on the sleeves where Naruto's biceps would be. The shirt is a V-neck and shows just a hint of the mesh armor he has underneath. Naruto finishes with his specialized Chunin vest that has a compartments in the back for his ninjutsu, which is carried diagonally across Naruto's back, and also his twin kukuri knives he keeps at the small of his back, handles facing down. Naruto then grabs his black Hitai Ite Iruka gave him and heads out. During Naruto's walk across the village he notices a lot more people smile and greet him than they used to. Even as things started to improve after the Suna-Oto invasion, it hadn't been to this extent, not that he minds, but it wasn't what he had been expecting. Even people who used to go out of their way to ignore him spoke and were cordial. As disciplined as Naruto had become, he couldn't fight back the 1,000-watt smile adorned across his face as he felt the village's acceptance for the first time. Naruto. He heard a voice call out and turned to see Kiba and Shino walking toward him. Hey guys, how's it been? Naruto asked. Awesome, getting stronger. We're all Chunin now, isn't that awesome? Neji Tem is even a Junin. That's great, how have you been Shino, and where is Hinata? I have been fine, Uzumaki-san and Hinata stepped inside that alleyway just a moment ago. Oh, well I should go say hi. Hey, maybe we all can catch up later tonight. I'd like to see how everyone's been doing since I left. I'll round up the gang and we'll figure something out, said Kiba, and Naruto shot him a wave as he headed toward the alley and Hinata, which he finds her about to hyperventilate. Hinata, are you okay? Naruto asked, but doesn't invade her personal space like he would have done in the past, opting to sit beside her instead. I'm fine, and Naruto-kun. You sure? I can go get Kiba or Shino if you aren't feeling well. And no, I'm sure, but thank you. No problem, I'll always help a friend out. Naruto said, which caused the girl's face to become red. So, how have you been, Hinata? Training hard. Hi. Neji Nisan has been helping me with my gentle fist and Kakashi-sensei has helped me learn my elemental affinities. Cool. What are they? Fire and lightning. Does that mean you're secretly super aggressive? Naruto asked, which caused Hinata to giggle. I don't think so, but one can never tell. Ah, true. I'll have to keep my eye on you then. Gomen, I think you'll find you require both. Oh, I guess I'll have to wait and see. Well, I have to meet Ba-chan, so I'll see you hopefully tonight. Hi, later, Naruto-kun. Bye, Hinata-chan. Naruto said and then disappeared using his trademark shunshin, not realizing what adding the affectionate honorific would do to the poor girl, namely making her face do a credible impression of a tomato before she passed out. Luckily she was promptly retrieved from Shino, who had been monitoring the interaction, and started to carry her home with Kiba. Did Naruto feel different to you, Shino? Yes, my Kikaichu informed me that while his chakra reserves have grown even more vast, his flow isn't chaotic like it once was. He's at the very least grown stronger. Good, he owes me a fight and I don't want a boring scrap. Bad enough he's taller than me now, I won't lose at anything else. Whatever you say, shorty. Naruto was making his way up the final stretch to the Hokage Tower when he felt a chakra signature approaching, though he couldn't feel an ill intent. Turning to meet the person, he found a pair of soft lips meet his own and arms around his neck. Acting on instinct, he wrapped his arms around the figure until she pulled away. Thank you, Naruto, she said while still hugging him, and once his brain started working again he realized it was Temari, Gaara's sister. You don't have to thank you, I really didn't do much. That's not what Gaara wrote me, Naruto. Don't be so modest, Naruto-kun, Temari said after releasing Naruto. It really wasn't much, I was just happy to help a friend, that's all. Still you have my thanks. You're welcome, Temari-chan, and I'm sorry I have to cut this short, but if I'm late I'm sure Ba-chan will kill me. Okay, talk to you later, she said, and he waved as he ran the rest of the way to the tower. Once he made it to the floor he got a quick greeting and hug from Shizune before stepping into Tsunade's office and seeing both Tsunade and Sakura sporting looks he didn't at all, even if they were the polar opposite. So glad you could join us, Naruto-kun. Tsunade said, which Naruto found odd, she never calls him kun. Sorry, I was on my way here and I kept running into people and catching up. Cha, yay, too busy flirting with everyone to get here. What do you mean flirting? I didn't flirt with anyone and how you were watching me through Gigi's pervert ball. Don't change the subject, Naruto. What's the big idea, kissing Tamari? Are you leading poor Hinata on? What are you talking about? I said hi to Hinata because she's my friend and Tamari kissed me. You sure didn't fight her off. I didn't know I was supposed to. Why are you acting like a jealous girlfriend, Sakura-chan? I'm not that late and I've already apologized. Do you just enjoy being mad at me? Ah, shut up, Naruto. Sakura said as she lifted her fist to hit him before she was stopped. Sakura, you stop that right this instant. Tsunade commanded of her apprentice. Gomen, Tsunade-sama. You really should apologize to Naruto, but that and his nascent harem will have to wait. Tsunade said, causing Sakura to sputter and Naruto to blush while scratching the back of his head. Before she could say any more, two parties arrived in her office through Shunshin. It was Kakashi and someone they had never met before. I'll save the introductions for later. Right now we need to discuss Sasori's mole with Orochimaru and the possibility of getting Sasuke Uchiha back. I expect you four to be preparing for this mission until you leave in 2 weeks. Now, let's get into some specifics. That was part 1 of What If Naruto Found a New Path during Jiraiya's training trip. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe to Fox Fan Fiction for more amazing Naruto what ifs.